And a very good evening to you. I'm Sophia Cambridge with this Sunday, April 15th edition of the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, Minister with responsibility for social care and gender affairs, Steve Blackett, has moved swiftly to the aid of two children of 36-year-old Onika King, who was gruesomely slain yesterday afternoon at her workplace at Swan Street in Bridgetown. Minister Blackett said the Domestic Violence Protection Order Act, which he piloted in Parliament, has widened the powers of the police and the judiciary in matters related to domestic violence. He says while prevention is of course better than cure, there must also be a focus on what happens after an act of domestic violence.
I wish that as human beings that we could deal with these matters, thrash them out in our own domestic spaces before they reach the point where a life is lost. And therefore it saddens me every time that something like this happens. I hope that, and I'm going back to the children who are involved in this and actually seeing them witnessing this act. And I hope that, I know that the Child Care Board has actually come on board and is offering services of counseling for the children. And that will be my principal aim and primary aim at this point, to have those children counseled.
And lawmen are asking for the public's assistance in locating a wanted man. He is David DaCosta King, who is being sought by police in relation to a serious matter. King is advised that he may turn himself in to any police station accompanied by a family member, an attorney at law, or both. If anyone has information which could help to locate David DaCosta King, they're being asked to contact the police emergency hotline at 211. Police are also reminding and cautioning members of the public against harboring King. You're being reminded it is a criminal offense to do so. In other news, the Democratic Labour Party St. Michael's Central Constituency branch has continued to gear up for upcoming general elections with a luncheon at the Almond Bay at Hastings in Christchurch. DLP candidate for the area, Steve Blackett, along with other government ministers and party faithful, filled the hall, dining on a three-course Barbadian Sunday lunch. Minister Blackett told CBC News the luncheon served as a fundraiser for this year's election campaign.
To know that we're into a period where the coffers of most branches are a little dry, so therefore we're hoping that through this effort here today that we can replenish those coffers for the campaign ahead of us. This is principally what it is all about this afternoon, and also to engender a certain kind of fellowship, not only among the members of the St. Michael Central branch, but also the general membership and the rank and file of the Democratic Labour Party.
Scores of young people from the city of Bridgetown got the opportunity to voice their concern and their views before the Democratic Labour Party's candidate for the area, Henderson Williams, recently. He held a youth rally entitled The Real Thing, which included a motorcade throughout the constituency, ending in Queen's Park. While hailing the event as a success, Mr. Williams said he'll be working to address many of the concerns that have been raised.
We had a wonderful time today with the youth in the city. They went all over the city and they expressed themselves. They had fun, but they had good, clean fun. And I believe, this is really what we need in the city, things to keep the youth engaged. The rally is really about hearing from the youth. And this part of the rally is in Queen's Park. We're going to hear from the youth themselves. What it is that you want in terms of representation? What are your challenges in the city? And how can we work together to resolve some of those issues?
Well, one of Barbados' greatest contemporary legal minds has been laid to rest. The service of thanksgiving for Queen's Counsel Sir John Connell was held yesterday at the Cathedral of St. Michael and All Angels at St. Michael's Row in Bridgetown. It was attended by Prime Minister Frundle Stewart, Chief Justice Sir Marston Gibson and Opposition Leader Mia Mottley, among many other dignitaries and members of the legal fraternity here in Barbados. Sir John's son, Dr. Kwame Connell, remembered his father as a man of immense talent. He said Sir John's public life as a Justice of the Court of Appeal of Barbados, his work with human rights as an opposition senator and Barbados' ambassador to Venezuela, Brazil and Colombia were all outstanding, but he prefers to remember the family man.
A husband, Mom and Dad stood side by side for 60 years. A father, a pillar of strength, a constant and unwavering presence. I remember long discussions around the kitchen table that started at breakfast and continued well past lunch. Only interruption being the clearing of the breakfast plates and the setting down of the lunch plates. I remember long walks that started before sunrise and traversed the length and breadth of St. Philip and St. John.
John's daughter, Latchmi Connell, said her father built his life on integrity and principle.
We were talking one day about infidelity, and Daddy made it clear, I have too much respect for your mother ever to be unfaithful. He went on to say that he ensured that he never placed himself in a position where that would become an eventuality. That level of integrity was a constant thread throughout Daddy's life. He would often remark that he had to be able to get up every day and look at that man in the mirror while he shaved and have him look back at him.
Queen's Counsel Sir John Connell passed away at the age of 81. Well, school students in Barbados will soon have to pay the full fare when riding on route taxis. The disclosure has come from Chairman of the Alliance of Owners of Public Transport Vehicles, Roy Raphael. He says the move to the full $2 fare will take effect this Tuesday at the start of the next school term. Mr. Raphael says the decision was reached at a recent meeting of the association which it held with its membership. He said it was determined that the high cost of maintaining their vehicles on the roads, as well as the exorbitant motor insurance rates, were making it hard for route taxi operators to make a profit.
We will be encouraging our operators, which include drivers and conductors, that they can go ahead and charge the additional 50 cents for school children effective from the 17th of April when the school children go back to school. What's happening is that our operators have been absorbing the cost of 50 cents for the school children, where the legal fare in Barbados is $2. Because the fact that we no longer can absorb the cost in terms of high maintenance, high insurance.
And Mr. Raphael says the matter was communicated to the Ministry of Transport at the last meeting which they held over 2 months ago, but it's only now that they are moving to introduce the new fare.
I mean, it's creating some issues for us generally across the board. So our maintenance cost is very high. We were calling our government for duty-free concessions so that we can buy newer buses and work longer hours. We have not heard from them. We're encouraging people to continue to charge $150 for the school children, pending that the government would have spoken to us after several attempts to meet with them to discuss duty-free concession. But we recognize now that they have not done so since we had our last meeting some 3 or 4 months ago.
Well, Mr. Raphael adds the association is open to meeting with the Transport Ministry to discuss any issues that they think might arise out of the decision. The heads of the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration and the Pan-African Coalition of Organizations in Barbados are calling for the former Brazilian President Lula da Silva to be released from prison. Mr. da Silva is currently serving a 12-year jail term for corruption. Speaking on behalf of both groups, the movement's head, David Denny, explains that their protest action, which has started with a statement calling for Mr. da Silva's release, will be escalated.
In the Caribbean region, we are either holding press conferences to express our position in solidarity with Brazil, or we are going in front of the embassies of Brazil to hold protest action. Maybe in the future we may be forced to go in front of the embassy of Brazil here in Barbados to hold our protest action. I know that on May 1st, which is the Workers' Day, that we in the Caribbean will be stepping up our protest action